She takes her mask off.
Yeah. That's been a whole new story.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
We are so grateful to have with us today Judge Sara Smolenski. She is going to be speaking with us today about the judicial system, and I understand she's got quite a good sense of humor and some good stories to go with that. So we're looking forward to that. This has been a while trying to get this to work out with COVID. We've scheduled and rescheduled and scheduled again, and finally we're able to have her, and we're so grateful to have you today. If you want to go ahead and come on up.
Thank you, Jackie. Can I just take it out?
Yep, you sure can.
Okay, now, am I allowed to take my mask off?
Yeah.
I am fully vaccinated,
Yeah.
and, but I respect how we do it in the courtroom. We're having people wear masks, in the courtroom, and then we just started back to jury trials. For 18 months, we did not have any jury trials. At the district court level, we have 6 jurors. Many of you have been jurors before through the life's experience, and you know what it's like. Downtown, circuit court, 12 jurors. And really, all the courts are starting to go back to having groups come in to pick juries. But it's not like you can just call 12 people in and that's your 12 jurors. Because they get to question the jury panel to see who they want to keep and who they don't. And it's not really that people aren't qualified to be jurors. It's really just trying to find more about individual people and what their thoughts might be. If they had a case that maybe somebody was suing a dentist, well, they're probably not going to want a dentist on the jury, you know? So it can be all kinds of things. And if it's a drunk driving case and the juror says, yes, I've been arrested for drunk driving before, it doesn't mean they're a bad person or they couldn't be a good juror, but they're thinking, really, we want a clean slate. Let's start with somebody that doesn't have any biases. Well, that's impossible, because we all have biases, don't we? But to do it so that they can try to pick the best jury they can. I'm getting sidetracked a little bit because right before Jackie introduced me, I realized I left this file in my car. I don't need it. I can do it without it, but it had some show and tell. But I'll make it up when I get to that. So you'll just go with me, because I know when I come to Raybrook, you're a sharp group, and I don't have to worry one bit. And a lot of times I do have friends in the audience, and today's no exception. Mary Duzema was my pottery teacher for close to 25, 30 years, and she's here with her brother and her sister. And her sister-in-law that live here. You guys will know the Duzemas and Hugowin. Go with it. And it's Polish. And no, I'm kidding. Oh yeah, that's me. That's it. Smolenski. Yeah. Okay. Hugowin. Thank you for bearing with me, Coral. I was trying to be a little funny. But Jackie, this is a good thought. If you ever need to have a craft day at Raybrook, Mary Duzema is your person. She could put on, okay, I'm used to people smoking pot in court, not in court, but getting in trouble with it before it was legal. I was used to people throwing pots at each other, but I love throwing pots on the wheel and hand building and slab work, because I started taking pottery classes from Mary back in 1998. I'll say 98. I'm pretty sure that's a pretty good time. And I have found it to be, now at my home, I have a wheel, I have a kiln, I have a slab roller. And I look forward to retirement someday, don't know when. But when that happens, I know I'll be doing more pottery, because I find it to be very relaxing. And Mary, bless her heart, she couldn't be the best teacher ever, because she has somebody like me who really isn't very artistic, but likes to do it. So if you have grandchildren, now great. Some of your grandkids, when they were 5th grade, 6th grade, I would sometimes say, my piece sometimes looks like a 5th grade piece. But even in 5th grade, you were proud of it, excited to have it. And Mary always worked to have us be imaginative and think outside the box and try something new. And we'd have students that she had that were beautiful artists. Really talented people. but they always let people like me in that just loved it for the joy of it, for the hand building, for the throwing, for the relaxation. So I like to say I'm used to people throwing pots at each other, but I like to throw pots on the wheel. So anyways, Mary, you added so much to my life over the years with that pottery. Thank you. Complete relaxation. Okay, I was going to start out by saying, what a world we've been living in. There's so many things to talk about, I can't even begin.
Yeah.
I know Jackie wants me to talk a little bit about the court and the court system, but I'll just tell you, no matter what line of work you were in, or your family was in, or your spouses were in, or your kids, or your grandkids, this pandemic has changed every aspect of our lives.
Amen.
Every aspect of it. Some for the better, most for the worse. But realistically, a lot of acts of kindnesses have come out of the pandemic. And I like to focus on the positive. I like to focus on the positive because really, if all you do is worry about all the stuff that could happen or might happen or could, I'm not saying be irresponsible. I'm just saying I like to focus on the positive because that's the kind of person I am. I'm an extrovert. No one will joke about Sara loves an audience and give her a microphone. And sometimes she doesn't even need the microphone. I've always been loud. But I'm just happy to be here and share some thoughts with you today. First and foremost, I want to give tribute to Penny Dykstra.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, I don't know if all of you have heard the story, but I'm willing to tell it.
Okay.
So during the pandemic, I got a black Labrador dog that was called Career Changed from Leader Dog for the Blind. Now, when they're career changed, it doesn't mean they're bad, but they didn't make the cut. Now, they don't tell you when you adopt the dog exactly what it's about, although they said our dog had a mild elbow dysplasia. I'm not a doctor. You usually hear it called hip dysplasia when it's the hip. Well, this was the elbow. And they put these Leader Dog for the Blind dogs through the most rigid tests from when they're born into foster homes, into training, right up until the day they meet their blind person, their blind leader. Well, if you ever get a chance to Google or look up Pick of the Litter, it's a network documentary. I wouldn't call it a movie, I'd call it a documentary. It's worth watching. Pick of the Litter. Because what they do is they follow these newborn pups all the way through the process for Leader Dog for the Blind training, right up as they parallel the blind people that are going to get the dog. So they tell you the story about the blind people getting ready to get the dog. And this is life-changing for these people. I mean, I can't pretend what it's like to be blind. But just say that our dog named Maverick, black Labradors, black. At night, I can barely see him. He's so black. Beautiful coat, beautiful. Everyone tells us how beautiful, handsome this dog is. We got him at 7 months old. And I am telling you, if you've ever seen a Labrador that loves the water, during the summer we live up at Silver Lake, which is where Penny Dykstra, who lives here, lives during the cottage year, summer month. And here's where being a faith-based person has helped me tremendously. And I'm not being funny about this. And you can tell Penny anything I say. But love your neighbor. Oh, has that been the most meaningful thing? Of course, we loved Penny before this happened. But I'll cut to the chase. That black Labrador that loves everyone, thinks everyone is their best friend. Penny would give him treats, and he would love Penny, and he would love everybody. Well, one day on a Sunday evening in June, Penny came out to her lawn. She didn't have her walker. She came out front on the grass. I was at the end of the dock, had thrown the ball in the water 15 times. That dog jumps 15 feet, loving that, getting that, retrieving the chuck it. Well, Maverick saw Penny. Probably thought maybe a treat might be involved. I don't know. I didn't see it. It happened in a split second. And Penny was on her front lawn and was startled by my dog, bumped. Penny went down, fractured hip. I thought I was going to die. And this is what I talk about, love your neighbor. Because really, we have a community at the cottage. We love each other. The cottages are close together. Maybe that's part of it. I'm not sure. We feel very fortunate that we have the neighbors we have. Penny has been so kind about this. She never told anyone it was our dog, let alone say it's the judge's dog. You know, she, her kids, I called all her kids right away. You know, Penny, I was on her in split second. She's laying in the grass. She's already cracking jokes. For those of you that know Penny, you can imagine. I said, honey, we got to get you an ambulance. She said, no, I don't want an ambulance. Well, long story short, she had surgery the next morning. She's doing great. We're taking her for walks around. She's doing a lot of walking. She's using her walker. She's out where she loves to be. She loves Rayburg too, but she loves all of you and loves to be here too. But that being at the cottage is a special thing, especially in the summer. But I think because we had such a loving neighborhood, it's all gone okay. But I suffered, I'll tell you. I was so saddened because I know it's an accident. She knows it's an accident. Everybody knows it's an accident, but it breaks your heart.
Sure.
You know, my mom's not living, my grandma's not living, but if they were, that's what it felt like, having them lay there. And I kind of had a feeling, this is not good. When she, you know, kind of, ooh, and, you know, I'm not a doctor, but, you know, she has just gone through it, but she has been so strong. And so really, it taught me about some cases in court when people are really sorry about something. People that aren't bad, that something happens. Like last month, I had an 18-year-old young woman. Okay, now this can happen to any of us, I mean it, and these are true stories. She went through a red light, never thinking it was red. You know, I don't know, how do our brains do it? We do it. I bet you've been at a stop red light before, and the lane next to you that's turning left and gets the green, they start to go, and boom, whoops! You've done it. We've all done it if you're a driver. This was a little bit more pronounced because in her brain she thought the light was green. She never meant to go through the red light. She hit a man on his moped. He was killed. It was as sad can be. He was 64 and had a little bit of a learning disability, but this accident had nothing to do with him. It just was, he was the victim. Could have been anywhere, any place, that was it. His two sisters came to court, his nephew spoke. They just talked about what a wonderful person this guy was, what a wonderful guy this Jimmy was. And he was one of those guys with a little bit of a learning disability that you probably met or seen in the grocery store, and they give him a job to do and they do it. And they do it well. This was a guy that kind of got adopted by a fire department out in Cutlerville where he would go and, I don't know, sweep the floor and do things, and they all kind of like he was a mascot. So his family thought very highly of him, and they loved him, like any of us would love our family members. And this young woman got up with her parents in the courtroom and tried to make her statement of apology. And it was like a Jesus moment. I don't talk religion in the courtroom, although I am a faith-based person.
Yeah.
But it felt profound because she was so sincere. And she was so, what do you say to a family that you just were the cause of their loved one's death? Untimely and unnecessary, and you know, I mean, we could all take a lesson from it too. How often do you drive to the grocery store and you barely remember you drove there because you're thinking about the eggs and the ham and the milk you have to get?
Yeah.
I'm just saying she was very, very articulate for a young woman like that. I struggled with this case because it's serious, of course, someone died. And you have to have a lesson learned from all of this. We all could take a lesson from it. But in the end, I'll get to the chase. It's a 1-year misdemeanor. It's called moving violation causing death. Well, I just thought, if this young woman would know what it's like to be in jail for just a little bit, as her life progresses and all the years into the future, she'll know this incident will help her be stronger to help others that go through a difficult time. That's how I felt. So I made the decision to give her Friday at noon, show up to jail, get out Sunday morning at 8 a.m. It was less than 72 hours, but it was, I thought, a moment of reflection so she could understand the gravity of everything that occurred. The family couldn't have been kinder, the family of the deceased. they suggested that she get 4 days in jail because their Uncle Jimmy was in ICU for 4 days before he passed.
Oh.
And I get what they were saying, and I could have said no jail. And I really struggled with it. But I made my decision. When I saw her on a Tuesday, I told her, don't go with the deputy right now. That's pretty intense. I said, you show up Friday at noon. Do what you need to do to get ready. Her mom and dad were in the courtroom. They let her be an adult at 18. And she took it. She handled it. She was very stoic, but emotionally completely distraught. So before that Friday, I'm worried about it. And I decided that I would, I'm sorry I'm moving. I forgot that it's being recorded. Hi, everybody. Okay. I decided I just need to call this young woman before Friday. I think in 31 years of being a judge, I've never called anyone who I sent to jail the day before they're going to go.
Oh.
But I wanted to call her and say what I'd said in the courtroom already, but reiterate it. You're not a bad person. Everybody knows you didn't mean to do this. You now realize how serious this is. Not that she didn't already, but that man, Jimmy, from everything I learned about him, he would forgive you. Because his family stood up and said the things about him that really you'd want people to say about you. Kind, loving, helpful, good person. And I said, if that Jimmy were here right now, he'd want you to be healed. He'd want you to be forgiven. He'd want you to move on with your life. And I told her, you need to think about this years down the road. This kid is 18. Say she's going to live till 99. She's got a long time to go, and you want to make the best of it, so you learn. And you will, undoubtedly, I said to her, be able to teach others throughout the course of your life, people that get in a rough spot, a difficult patch, whatever it is, you'll be able to learn from this experience and help them through theirs. And that's why I said it felt like a faith-based moment, because the two families already started healing towards one another. You know what I mean? With each other. And so getting back to Penny, it made me reflect on what about a person who is really sorry. Now, I'm not comparing Penny breaking her leg to, or breaking her hip to a fatal car accident, but still, it's the point. And it makes you think, oh my gosh, I didn't sleep for days after Penny broke her hip. Could I have done this? Could I have done this? What if I would have seen him? What if I am on the leash? What if I had grabbed him? What if I threw the ball further away in the water the other way? He would have missed Penny altogether. But you know, it is what it is. What can you do? You can't go back and beat yourself up about it. But Penny and her kids and their family couldn't have been more loving to Linda and me that own that dog. So when you see Penny, just tell her. She knows already. And it is something to be proud of, that we have such a community at our lake that we can truly, without hesitation, say we love our neighbors. So that's it. Okay, I wanted to tell you about how funny it's been with Zoom. Now, before the pandemic, most of us, we didn't even know what Zoom was. None of us had probably even heard of Zoom. Now, I've been doing video hookup with the Kent County Jail my whole career. I think 3 or 4 years into my job, I've been there 31 years. I think we had videos for the first district court in Grand Rapids to ever have hookup, video, television contact with the jail. Made it easy. They didn't have to bring the guys out. They didn't have to bring deputies to follow them with the cruisers and bring them out. You know, you didn't have to bring the guys shackled into the courtroom. You see them on a 48-inch screen TV on video. Well, Zoom was like that times a lot more. And the state court administrator in Lansing had purchased a license for Zoom for all the courts in Michigan prior to the pandemic. Almost like they had a sixth sense of how virtual we would become. Not because of a pandemic. Oh my gosh, we didn't think that. Whoever thought that would happen? Yeah. My parents lived through the first one. The Spanish flu, 1919, 18. My parents were both born in 1918. They've both been gone many years. But I'm just saying, we never thought we'd ever live through something like this again, and now we are. And we're still in it. Let's get real. But when I think about the wherewithal to have all those Zoom license connections, so you can zoom in, and all of a sudden I got 30 or 40 people on that 48-inch television, all these people, and you don't always know who you're talking to. So what I left out in my car were some funny things that I made. I brought the real ones, but I'll just tell you. On a piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, with the heaviest black marker I could find, over the many months that we were doing Zoom, I'm sitting on the bench, and I'm a little bit escalated from the regular floor, and the big TV is over maybe 20 feet away from me, and the camera that's on me is on top of that TV. So when inevitably it would happen that you're connecting to Zoom, someone didn't have audio connection, or someone didn't have video connection, or you could see them but not hear them, or you could hear them but not see them, and everywhere in between. So I would make these 8.5, 11 on typewriter paper with the big black markers. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. That's the term that became so great. Well, then it was join audio. Join audio. And then you got this lady on the Zoom going, and you're saying, lady, I can see you're talking, but I cannot hear one word. And certainly I'm not that good at lip reading, so I'm not getting it. Join audio. Unmute yourself. And then you go through almost the charade game. Trying to give them pointers. About, and finally I'd make the paper that would say, give me your phone number. I'd hold it, wait, and sometimes I'd walk over to the camera, come off the bench, and just hold it up by the camera. Give us your phone number. Because how am I supposed to know what's going on, or they are, if I can't talk to them? I mean, we're good, but we're not that good. So, inevitably, it would happen when you'd have this audio glitch or video glitch that you'd run into all these problems. Okay. Finally, if they put the phone number up, you're seeing 616-452-78, and the paper's like off the screen. I got all the number except the last two numbers of this guy's phone. And we've been working on it for 10 minutes. It felt like an hour. I said, move the paper. Move, and you're doing all this. I can't see the number. And you're trying to get through to them. And it's hysterical, really, but you're almost driven crazy with it. Because you still got 17 more people to see, and you can't even get this one guy. So, okay, he moves the telephone number. I have a phone on my bench. So, okay, I just call that number, put it on speaker. I almost wanted to say, thank you, Jesus, really, thank you, Jesus, because I got through to him. Yeah? So now he's talking, and I can talk to him. He's on speakerphone, everybody can hear him. I said, what we were talking, I know, I can't find the audio button. I can't find the join mute button, join mute, join audio button. That's how funny it was. Well, okay, then we get to the next level of Zoom, which is, really? I'd hold up a sign that said, put some clothes on. Can you imagine? Seriously, I had this 19-year-old kid that's sitting there. And these people, they're either at their kitchen table, they're in their den, they're on a couch, they're walking out in the garden, they're walking outside, they're driving. They're driving a car and they're Zooming with you and cars are whipping by. I say, sir, I'm sorry, but it really looks like you're driving. He goes, yeah, I'm on 131. I said, okay, really, will you just pull over at the next exit? Because really, I don't want to be the one talking to you on your case while you're driving the car. And oh, by the way, it's driving on a suspended license. Hope you got that taken care of. You're like, really? So you don't exactly know where they are, and you don't really know who's with them. I mean, you can sometimes see people with them, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can see the person you're talking to, but you hear other people talking to that person. So I see this kid, he's 19, I can't remember if it was drunk driving, something like that. And I say, excuse me, sir, it looks like you don't have a shirt on. Bare-chested. And I hear in the background, who I think is the mother, and she said, Johnny, I told you should have had a shirt on. And I'm like, really? Now, do you think, honestly, that guy guy is going to walk into my court in person with no shirt on. There's no way. I mean, it hasn't happened to me in 31 years that I've had anybody. I've had people that are dressed inappropriately.
Yeah.
That's sometimes called life. I'm not sure. People do different things, or have different figures that don't include wearing some of the things that figure should not be wearing. You know what I'm saying? No doubt about that. But I'm thinking to myself, you have got to be kidding that you're sitting there with no shirt on. That would never happen in the courtroom. So I'm not against Zoom, and we're still doing Zoom. We're open, and we're having people coming in. We've had people live for the last, 5 months, I bet. But we are trying to get the word out that if you're going to Zoom correctly. If they can see you and you can see us, let's Zoom correctly. I mean, maybe some of you have Zoomed into some of your chapel services. Seriously, you're not going to do it in your underwear, especially if they can see you. You know what I mean? We've had people coming out of the shower. We've had people that are pulling into a 7-Eleven grocery store and they're going in, all the while Zooming with you. They're going to thankfully he wasn't buying beer, he was buying a Diet Coke. But they go open the cupboard, you see him grab the pot. You're like, okay, could you just stop? Pretend like you're in court. One time I had a man and woman and they were under the covers in what appeared to be a double bed. And they were clothed, but they were laying in bed, head on the pillows. And I'm like, okay, seriously, it looks like you're in bed. Well, Judge, we've had to wait 45 minutes and I'm very, very tired. I said, okay, time out. We've all been to the doctor's office, right? You have to wait forever sometimes at the doctor's. Doesn't mean you crawl into bed and now you're zooming in. Get out of bed, walk to the kitchen table, have all your clothes on, and then I'll talk to you.
Right.
But I mean, realistically, it's not so much about being respectful to the judge. I mean, I do get to wear a robe, but I'm a regular person. I'm a regular person like everybody else. So, it's not because we're so special or so smart or whatever. It's like a little bit like the minister, if they're going to wear vestments or whatever, or the choir. They're distinguished separately, and you're in a service like that, you're going to be more respectful. That's what they expect in the courtroom. But Zoom, oh my gosh, it might mean that I have to write a book. Write a book about some of the funniest, silliest, craziest things that you can think of.
I bet.
When you think of district court, we're Knapp in the Beltline. So we're at Knapp in the Beltline, across from Meyering, across from D&W. We've been there for about 10 years, and they joined the Rockford and the Cascade courts into one. Last November, I just got elected, thanks to the people in the district, to an 8-year term. Now, if you can remember back, some of you, this is just a few years ago, some of you, it's a few more years ago, but if you can think back when you retired, people would come up to you and say, hey, have you retired? Are you retiring? Have you retired? Are you going to do it? Are you retired? Are you still working? Are you retired? I get so many questions. Now, I'll be 64 in October. So, okay, well, 64, it's relative, isn't it? But that's a little bit younger than your age right now, slightly. But it's getting closer to that age of retirement. I mean, let's get real. I just wish that I'd know when I'm going to die. Because then I could plan a lot better, But you can't know that ahead of time, so we just go with it and hope the good Lord takes care of us. But I'm telling you that when I think about retirement, I want to be able to reach the point where they don't want you to leave, but you think it's time for you to leave. If you wait too long and you're there too long and they go, oh man, Smolenski, she should have been gone, whatever. She talks too much or whatever they say, then it's too long. But I also didn't want to just get elected and then just stop right after I just got elected. So I think we'll know when we know. I think I'll know when I know. And some of the more difficult cases make it seem quicker that you'd want to just not have to get up and every day's Saturday. But I know that, retirement I think of as just another phase of my life's journey. I don't look at it as all freebies and everything's beautiful. I mean, you still got life, you still got issues, you still have things you work on, but it just gives me more time to call Mary and do some of my pottery stuff that I do now. COVID did help with pottery, and last night, Mary, you'll be happy to hear this. I'm Catholic, and I was going to church a lot. The pandemic threw that all off, amongst other things too. But what I was going to say was, I was raised over at St. Stephen's with the Dominican sisters. Love those nuns, and they helped us a lot. And so yesterday we did a fundraiser for the Dominican sisters on Marywood. Most of them are getting so, journey in age that, there's not very many my age anymore there. They're mostly older. But they're wonderful women, religious and very dedicated. And we had a fundraiser for a golf outing at Blythefield Country Club. And I have chaired that for about 12 years with my spouse. And yesterday was the event, but I was going to tell Mary, I was the auctioneer. You've seen those dinner auctions you go to, and you pay $100 to get the chicken dinner, and then you give money to to the Grave Christian Reformed Church, and you give money to this, and they have somebody donate a golf at this course or donate that. Well, I donated 4 big platters of pottery that I made with good designs, leaves, Mary, that were really beautiful with that brown glaze, and just some really beautiful 4 pieces. And you'll be happy to know they went for $300, $300, $300, $300. All 4 platters went for $300 each. And I thought, well, is that a riot? I mean, it didn't cost me $300 to make them, but and it made me feel kind of like a cool artist that I had a piece that went for $300. My max is $500, all for charity, but 1 piece went for $500. Mostly they just do it because it's the charity, but you like to take a little feel-good feel about it. But when you're thinking of retirement, you think of like, okay, when is it time? When we have kids come out to the court pre-pandemic, I loved having the students. They are so sharp. They are so smart. Now we have kind of a running rule, and we'll probably get back into it as the pandemic hopefully starts to go to the side as we're all praying. But when we have our field trips, we go as young as 2nd grade and as old as Raybrook. That was supposed to be funny. That's kind of funny. As old as Porter Hills. Okay, they're older than you guys. We'll say Porter Hills. Okay, I'll say Clark, because my mother-in-law is at Clark, and she's going to be 99 in October.
Wow.
Okay, so when you talk about these field trips, they are a riot. Now, we haven't had one in, almost 2 years. In fact, I'd never met Jackie, and she called me probably 2 years ago. In fact, Jackie, this might be the longest standing speaking engagement I've had on my calendar. 2 years. Because when they call and want you to speak 2 years from now, you go, well, I don't even know if I'll be living then, but I'll put it down and hope I can find this calendar. But Jackie, you persevered, so that was good. But when you're talking about the kids that come out to court, they're so darling because they really take it all in. They listen, and they're smart. They don't always know all the vocabulary. Like if you said acquitted, they don't know what the word acquitted means, but when you're talking not guilty, they know what that means. So they're listening to case after case after case after case, and then I love it because I open it up to questions for them. And I remember having about 10 or 15 cases where the kids listened, and there was 40, 45 2nd graders. And when it got to be the kid's turn to ask a question, most of the adult people were gone from the courtroom, and this kid raised his hand and said, you know the guy in the yellow jacket? Well, I didn't remember anybody's jacket or who was in front of me with a yellow jacket. But the minute he said the guy that stole the tennis shoes from Meyers, then I knew who he was talking about. Because I had a man in front of me that went into Meyers, he went to the shoe department, he sat down and tried on a pair of new tennis shoes, and he just slyly put his old shoes in the box. And then he started walking around Meijer to shop with the new shoes on, acting like they were his. And as the point came for him to leave the store, he never paid for his shoes. So the 2nd grader, I kid you not, he said, okay, I understand the $300 fine. And he said, really, I think I understand probation. The 2nd grader says to me, it's a little bit like being grounded. And I said, yes, it is. That's a good analogy. I didn't say analogy to a 2nd grader, but I said, yeah, that's a pretty good example. You're right. It's like being grounded. He said, my question is, does he get to keep the shoes? And it's so sweet because they're so serious about it. They're very serious about it. And I said to him, you know what? He doesn't get to keep the shoes. No, he doesn't. And he pays. I explained to them what restitution meant, that he had to pay for the shoes. And the shoes just can't be returned because he'd been wearing them in the store for 45 minutes and out into the parking lot. But the kids are sharp. They understand far more than you think. One time I had a Lowell elementary school 5th graders out. They had a great field trip, and they write letters to you. And then you get these packet of letters. Dear Judge Smolenski, that field trip at your court was one of the best experiences of my life. You know, and it's so sweet when they say it like that. Then the next kid will say, Dear Judge Smolenski, thank you for letting us come and see the corrupt people. You gotta love it. I mean, they're very sincere. You know, thank you, and they draw pictures. You know, I've never used my gavel in the courtroom to get order, but when the kids come out, they love the gavel. I let them pass it around, and I've hit the block with the gavel for the kids. But I've never had to use my gavel in the courtroom to get attention or order or anything like that. But the kids seem to really focus on that. And when they draw their pictures, they love drawing the pictures of a gavel. They just really enjoy it. Now, you know, when you're in the district court, we see all kinds of things. And I told you we get 6 people for a jury, and the possible penalty for anybody that's in front of me is up to 1 year. So if you've been jurors before on a circuit court case, a big drug case, murder, rape, robbery, you're talking a felony. You're talking up to life imprisonment. That's a 12-person jury, where if you're called in for jury duty, it can be 2 weeks. 2 weeks, jury trial, 2 weeks long. Most of our jury trials are 1 day. Start at 8:30, 8:30, pick your jury, hopefully be done by 5. Last Sunday, my colleague was there till 8 p.m. The jury was deliberating, and they finished with their decision at 8 p.m. It was a domestic violence where the man shoved and pushed this woman who went down a stairwell and broke her wrist. You know, it's amazing what you see with different cases, and while the cases are all important to everybody and every single person to them, it's very serious. We get the gambit from, are you kidding, I can't believe it, to some of the saddest cases that make me want to retire. Even though those cases won't end, I won't have to deal with them. But like, for instance, I remember distinctly having a series of cases in my court, because it's like a doctor's office. You got 15 people waiting in the waiting room, and they all got something wrong with something else. We're not all the same. So when the people come into court, they all have something else going on. You know, somebody might be charged with one thing, and somebody else is charged with another. I had this man in front of me who backhanded a 10-month-old baby. It was sickening. It was sickening to the fact that you just want to almost vomit. When you hear what happened and the details, and you picture this beautiful, innocent, darling, beautiful baby who gets hit by the mother's boyfriend, 10 stitches. On a baby, I'm thinking 10 stitches. It just made me sick, you know. And he was pleading guilty, and we were going to punish him, and he was going to jail. But I get done with this case. And 2 seconds later, I get this lady who got a repair and report. Have you ever heard of those type of tickets? Repair and report. So she had a mirror on the side of her automobile that bumped on the garage wall. I don't know. She knocked it off somehow, or somebody did. Her mirror was broken. Believe me, we've all had it happen. If you haven't, some of your family or somebody in your family's had some oops, hit, mirror's broken, or whatever. When the mirror is broken like that, because it's considered a safety feature on the automobile, you just can't keep driving that car forever and never get it fixed. That's why they call them repair and report. Repair it and show us you fixed it. No harm, no foul, no fine. But don't do nothing and keep driving the car like that mirror is going to do something dangling down here by the wires. So that woman gets called right after this child abuse case. And she comes up and she's hysterical. Hysterical that she has to be in court and that she got this ticket. And I just want to say, lady, did you just hear the case we just had? I mean, put this in perspective, for crying out loud. I mean, I know it's important to each one of us what we have. But really, if you could grab somebody by the shoulders and give them a shake, like those movies, you know, when they're telling the kid, you know, get a hold of yourself. I wanted to say to this lady, get a hold of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what is your problem? It's a lousy mirror. Get it fixed and get it done. And meanwhile, I'm worried about this baby, who's probably perfect in every way and should never, ever, ever have been treated like that. And all you want to do is, you know, pray for that kid. Now you're almost feeling like this lady with the mirror. I'm not going to be worried about her. You know, because she just took it so out of context. But it can go from 1 second to something completely opposite. I had one of the saddest cases that I've had, and I'm not just it's life, and we all deal with it. You've had tragedies in your life. You've experienced things in your life too that you could tell stories about. But I had a drunk driving fatal car accident that happened. It's still going on in circuit court. The woman that was hit, the victim, was pregnant with twins, and she was 7 days from her delivery date on a C-section. I've never had children, but those of you that are mothers and maybe had twins, you know that a special type of pregnancy that they keep track of it and they know exactly what they're going to do. And that C-section was planned from right away when they knew that it was a high-risk pregnancy. And 7 days before she was to have her C-section, she was hit head-on and she lost both babies.
Oh.
She survived, but it was a case that just ripped your gut out.
No.
You know, so sad for everybody. And while the defendant allegedly was .18, driving intoxicated, hit her head on, I'm sure he never, ever, ever meant to have it happen. I'm sure he didn't. And I'm not going to say that, we all make poor decisions from time to time. I don't see that as egregious as, running into the bank with a gun and you shoot 5 people. It's different. But to that family, when they lose those babies, it's every bit as devastating. And you try to figure out, how do you come to some stability for that, for them, for healing? So you wear a lot of different hats, I think. You wear a lot of different hats when you're up there being a judge. And we're not perfect. Of course we're not perfect. And I've never been the smartest one. I've always tried to do the right thing, and I've always tried to make my decisions based on the facts that have been presented and the law that's there. But a lot of times you're not going to get people that agree with you. A little bit like being the umpire in the game. More serious, of course, but, well, maybe not with some of those games that are so crazy. They're so serious with those games. But I remember driving through the Taco Bell up on Plainfield Avenue a couple of years back, and I run into people all the time that say, "Aren't you Judge Smolenski?" And sometimes you want to kind of look at where you are before you answer that, because you don't know if they're happy or not happy, because it's that type of job. But this guy at Taco Bell was giving me my tacos, and I was in the drive-thru by myself, and he said, "Aren't you Judge Smolenski?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "I was in front of you." He said, "It was about 10 years ago. I had my second drunk driving, and you gave me 30 days in the Kent County Jail." He said, "It literally changed my life for the better." I said, "Really?" I said, "That's amazing. I can't believe it." Of course, it's like being a teacher and you've been teaching for 35 years. You don't remember every kid that was in front of you. But this guy said that he was in front of me and told me the story. He said, "I still remember what you said." And he was just being very kind about it. And I said, "I didn't change your life. You changed your life. You made the decision to change your life." And that's what's the case with so many people. If they can just get back on track. It's not so much that we have bad people, although we do. I guess I say that. There are people in the world that are bad. But the people that I see, the majority of them have gotten off track.
Yeah.
And they just need to get back on track. So that's really it right there. I didn't know if anybody has any questions or things. I can tell you a few more stories if you want, but does anybody have any questions that you're thinking about, court? Or I think most of you get pretty much a waiver if you're ever called for jury duty because you've hit the magic age. Although there might be a few of you in here that aren't 70 yet. But yeah, go ahead.
What made you want to go into law?
Oh, that's such a good question. That's a very good question. Okay, well, here's what I'm telling
Can you
you.
repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is, what made me decide to go into law?
Okay.
Now, I was in 4th grade when I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. It's not made up, it's a true story. And at the time, I will tell you, my dad was a judge.
Yeah.
My brother was a lawyer and then became a judge. So I come from a family, well, it's funny because there's 10 of us in my family. My mom and dad had 10 of us. 9 daughters, 1 son. I'm number 8, and I'm one of the little kids because there's only 2 sisters below me. I'm the 7th daughter and the 8th kid. My brother was number 1, 9 daughters. All of my siblings, except for my brother, are living. So my sisters are all living. My brother died in 2009 at the age of 64, which I'm going to be in October. He had a disease called multiple systems atrophy. It's like an advanced Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a neurological disease where he couldn't walk or talk at the end of his life. It was a very difficult way to go. When I think back now, in 2009, that's what, 12 years ago, he was only 64, he had 7 kids and had not retired, was still on the bench. In fact, he was on hospice while he was still a judge because they helped him, he was wheelchair bound toward the end, and then his mind was strong. It never affected his brain, but it affected his mobility and his extremities and all of that. But anyways, getting back to why. So, I grew up, I was in 4th grade when my dad became a judge, 1968. I have a picture on my office wall that I am in my school uniform, St. Stephen's. We all went to St. Stephen's over there in East Grand Rapids. All had the plaid, Catholic girls' school uniform. And we're all lined up on the front row of the court with my dad being sworn in. I was in 4th grade. It's not the swearing in that I remember so much, although I do remember bits and pieces of that. It was an experience I had in one of my classes at St. Stephen's with one of the nuns, where she wanted us all to read a paragraph from whatever book it was, I don't know. And it got to be this kid next to me, Tom. I'll be honest, I'm an extrovert. Always have been, always will be. We're all different. Tom, complete opposite. Introvert to the point where he could barely speak out loud in public. He was just extremely anxious. Way smarter than I'd ever be, Tom. And I saw him struggle when his name got called to speak and to read his paragraph because he couldn't. It's not because he couldn't read. The kid was smarter than all of us. It was because he was so anxious about speaking out loud in a group of 20 of his classmates. We didn't have to stand up in front of the class. We just had to read from our desk. But I remember watching him struggle, and I raised my hand and said to the nun, "Could I please read Tom's paragraph?" And no, she wouldn't let me, which still kind of bugged me to this day. But I didn't understand what her point was then, but I do now. And she needed to have Tom learn how to do that. But I started thinking, all the years I was growing up, what do people do that can't speak for themselves? Who do they have? Who do they have to speak for them? And I distinctly remember having a case where a woman was in a bad accident and she was left to be, we used to call it, no, I can't think of it. Do you ever have this happen where you can't think of something? That was supposed to be funny too. Well, it happens at 63. But she was completely out of it and had no neurological functions. She couldn't speak, she was blind. She was, yeah, that's what we call it, thank you. But you can't say vegetable now because it's something different. Yeah. But yes, vegetable, and we didn't mean it disrespectfully. Like I had a cousin that was mentally retarded and you couldn't say that now either. But it's developmentally disabled or mentally impaired or whatever. So that woman was a vegetable. And I remember she was assaulted at the nursing home she was at. And I remember thinking, how is she can't speak. She can't speak. I remember seeing them bring her into the courtroom in this wheelchair, and her muscles had atrophied and she was very thin and she was probably 40 years old. But I'm thinking there's no way she's going to talk, but the prosecutor wanted her presence there and they had some of the doctors testify as to what had happened. And, anyways, my whole point was, what are we supposed to do if a person can't speak for themselves? And that's what made me think about being a lawyer. And I always thought about being a lawyer like 7th grade to 8th grade. I never thought about it. College to law school, just the same way. I knew I wasn't going to stop until I was done with law school. And law school is 3 years after college. So when the 5th graders come in, I say, if you stay until you're in 19th grade, to them they're like, what, 19th grade? But if you tell them that, 19th grade, you can be a lawyer. But then I always say, you can be anything you want to be. You don't have to be a lawyer. I just decided that. And all my sisters, none of my sisters went into law. Oh. And now my dad and my brother are both deceased. And there has been a Smolenski judge in the district court the entire 50 plus years that the district court has been in session. Wow. And it's been my dad, my brother, and me. And I have now been a judge longer than both of them, way longer. My dad was a judge for about 14 years, and my brother was 17, and now look at, I'm on 31. Oh, wow. There's probably a lot of young lawyers out there right now saying, when is she gonna retire? Because we want to get that spot, like that. Can you think of any other questions that you have? Yes?
You mentioned restitution. Can you talk a little about that? What are some examples?
Sure. Restitution is in the sense of trying to make the victim whole. How do you make someone whole if they broke their leg? Well, we can't reverse it, but you can pay for all the medical expenses or all the expenses for rehab, OT, PT, or any expenses that arose from that incident. When you're talking about going in and stealing, as weird as this might sound, we have adult grandkids that steal from their grandparents.
Sure.
So we have adult grandkids that will go into their grandparents' home, invited, maybe a family event, but why they're in grandpa's wallet on top of the dresser, no one knows. And you don't find out until later. So if they took $150 out of grandpa's wallet and the case gets prosecuted, restitution is making grandpa whole. Well, financially you can make grandpa whole, but how do you get grandpa to ever trust that kid again?
Yeah.
And most of the cases that we have are drug, alcohol, or mental health related.
Yeah.
Where the grandkid loves that grandpa, maybe, but the addiction they're going through is so strong, they'll steal right from their loved ones. And you're like, what? It seems so foreign. I'm getting off track, but the reality of it is restitution is making that victim whole. If we're at Meyers, you and I are paying the prices, and the prices go up. If you cannot believe what people steal. That Walmart on Alpine Avenue, I've never physically been in the store. $39.99 Alpine Avenue Walmart.
No.
I wonder if anybody pays for anything there.
Yeah.
I get so many cases from that Walmart. I wonder, do they sell stuff? Because the more that's being stolen, if they don't get the restitution, okay, well then, they're going to charge us the money. We pay the higher prices. It's us as citizens that go in there and buy stuff. We're the ones paying more because how does the business run if they lose? And it's amazing when you think of some of these cases we get, like a Meyer, where it's this, I don't know if it's Bissell or Hoover. I know Bissell is here, and of course we love Bissell. But I mean, they'll take these top-of-the-line vacuum cleaners that are, I don't know if you're in the market for one or if you paid for one lately, but just say they're $400. I don't know. But, top-of-the-line vacuum cleaner that some guy goes in and fills 4 of those in a cart and then goes through garden aisle out to the parking lot. Because they resell them. They resell them online or somewhere. And, they're stealing high-priced items that they think are a quick turnaround. It always amazes me when people steal liquor, because they can sell liquor so fast. I mean, I know none of you bought liquor on the street from some guy, but just picture this.
You never know.
Picture this, they go in and they'll put the bottles of liquor in their pants. They just stick them in their pants and they got 4 or 5 fifths. And some of this liquor I don't drink, but some of it, it's expensive, like $52 a bottle or whatever, I don't know. Some of these different kinds of scotch or, and a lot of liquor at these stores have these locking devices on them that have to be taken off, especially when you buy them through the checkout lane. Or it sends off a do-do-do-do-do, sometimes silent, code when they leave the store. And so much of what happens they have on video. You cannot believe, I'm on video right now with this, but you can't believe how much of our life is on video. And then they'll get, the information. We want to make sure restitution is paid. But then I had a lady at the airport, we have the airport, she went berserk at the airport. I'm sure it was some mental health thing, because she just went completely bonkers. And she just damaged this office, and stuff was getting thrown, and computers and stuff just damaged, thousands of dollars. And I'm like, okay, well, you order somebody like that to pay restitution, they barely have 2 nickels to rub together. So I can order her to pay 10 grand. Is she going to pay it?
No.
Well, I'll be dead. By the time she ever pays it, it'll be long past my life, I'm guessing. So you try to be appropriate about it, but just because somebody doesn't have the money doesn't mean they can't be held accountable. So we try to do, and there's a lot of work that has to go into trying to coordinate all of that. I just had a case not so long ago that was another tragic accident with a death. Again, no alcohol, no drugs involved. Believe me when I say, if it's a drunk driving death, it's a completely different story than this young woman's story I told you earlier. Completely different when you got under the influence of drugs or alcohol or whatever. But it was another car accident. It was a car accident. A lady went through a stop sign. She hit this guy on the driver's door and he was killed. But he was from Mexico. And I said restitution. She had to pay to have his body sent back to Mexico. The family really wanted, he was 60. I think he was 60, had 3 kids and a wife, something like that. And they wanted his body back in Mexico. And I ordered the defendant to pay. It was like something like $7,000. And I thought, my gosh, I'm not trying to be funny, but you know, it costs a lot of money to send a deceased person somewhere. We could get a flight and it'd be a lot cheaper than that. Of course, they're not going to put him on a flight like that, but I'm just saying, $7,000. And that defendant, she didn't blink at it. She totally agreed to pay. And then you think, well, you're not going to just make them pay for the funeral. I mean, mostly we're all going to have a funeral probably. One time in our life, oh, that sounded funny. It wasn't even meant to be funny, and it was funny. But I mean, you're all going to have funerals, so just because there's a death doesn't mean we make them pay for funerals. But sometimes there are expenses that come out of that we order people to pay, and that's restitution. It's trying to put people back in the position they would have been in had this never happened. That's what restitution is. Yeah. I think I told you I just got elected to my next 8-year term and probably won't go that long, but I've had the pleasure of coming to Raybrook a number of times, and I think of the Bretton Woods as your kind of sister campus, or isn't it kind of? The big house? Do you remember one time when a lady drove her car right into that pond?
Yeah.
I had that case. I don't remember much about it, but I was so glad they got her out in a heck of a hurry, because that was a scary thing. Believe me, we've all done it before, hit the gas when we thought we were hitting the brake or whatever happened. But that was a little too much excitement there for that day, but it all worked out, no one was hurt. I don't remember exactly what happened or even if she's still living, but that was some excitement that you don't like to see. But anyways, can you think of any other questions that anyone has?
It's not a question
That's
about
all right.
the documentary
that
you talked
Pick of the
about,
litter?
the dogs.
Yeah.
We had seen that here.
Oh,
We
you
showed
did get
that
to
here.
see
Yeah,
it? Pick
few
of the
years-
litter? Do you remember it?
Few years, yeah.
Yeah, it's sweet. It's very
nice.
emotional and it's very heart-wrenching, beautiful story. And I joke with Penny about, if Maverick did make it through Leader Dog for the Blind, I just picture some blind lady being dragged across a parking lot. Because Maverick, he's so excited to go say hi to the next guy, or love this person, or love the kids down here, or play with these kids in the water. He just wants to go, and you got, so that's kind of the way it was with Maverick. But yeah, dogs can bring a lot of joy in your life. I just never knew they'd bump Penny like that and threw us into a tizzy, but she couldn't be better about it. I'm telling you, she's a beautiful person. Okay, any other questions you guys have? Well, I don't tell them over at the court, but I told them I was working at this fundraiser for the Dominican sisters, I told you yesterday, till about 8:39. Everything was outside. It was all outside at Blythefield, and they had the burgers and brats, after people played golf. And I was exhausted. That heat, when you're in the heat the whole day, I don't know how these workers do it. When I left, I spoke at the state of Michigan employees just before coming over here. They were at Uccello's. And when I sat a minute in my car waiting to come over here, and I was looking at my messages, and I saw these guys working on this building outside, and they were on the second level, and they had those yellow and orange, be aware of workers kind of colors on it. And I thought, I would last about a half hour. Between that and hot flashes, that's it, maybe. You're just like gone, But I walked in here and I said to the woman upstairs, I need some paper towels to wipe my sweat, my brow. I was just worked up from being outside. It's warm, but it's fun. I like this weather. Last night I jumped right in the lake when I got home, because we're staying out where Penny is, our cottage is right near hers. And I'm telling you, there's nothing as refreshing as jumping in the lake right before you go to bed. Just felt great. So if you ever want to come out, we'll just talk to Penny. She'll have you out. And then you can come over and say hello to us too. All right, listen, Jackie, thank you, and on behalf of everybody here at Raybrook, thanks for all the things you do for the community, all the things you do to help people, and all the things here at Raybrook. We appreciate having you. Thanks so much, and I'm glad to be a part of being able to come and say hello, mostly because Mary, my favorite pottery teacher, is here. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.